Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is Patricia Stewart of Patricia Stewart Originals. Okay, so I was thinking of doing some mark making. I have some very thin tissue paper here. I also have just some thin sheets of these color papers. And depending, on what you would use your mark making for would determine, I guess, the type of paper that you want to use. For me personally, what do you call it? The sandwich paper, deli paper, and the thin rice paper. I know I do gel prints with a thicker rice paper from time to time, but the thinner one, when you put matte medium and glue it down on the surface, it's really transparent, and the only thing that shows is your mark making, and I really love that. It does the same on the deli paper as well. But you can do mark making on color sheets, and you can still cut them in pieces and use them in other creative ways as ephemera. I do a lot of art journaling just for my own fun and appreciation, and I'm always looking for pieces of ephemera that can make my page stand out or look unique, and so I would use stuff like this to make marks. All right, so sometimes I use paint for mark making, and other times I will use some archival ink. Either I use one of these to put my marks on if I'm using a stencil or things like that. I'll use the ink. Sometimes with stencils I can use paint and a makeup sponge. I don't use these with paint because it will harden and be damaged. Sometimes it's good to use a brush, and this works well on the tissue paper. Whatever gives the design element or look that I like. So in using the ink, and I could make marks. I happen to be using black right now. I have them in a few colors. The ink, archival ink. But you can make some nice effects with this. If you're doing art journaling, it does well around the circumference of your page. You can use mix other colors. I should have actually brought out other colors with it. If I wanted to mix some blue, teal in here, I can do that. I can even come on top of the one, shift this a little bit, and put a little red in, and you get these nice effects, okay? And so sometimes using the archival ink can make nice mark making effects for you. And I use these as well. I'm using them a little bit more often now. And so this can be, you know, cut into pieces or strips or whatever you like. Now, say I didn't, well, want to use this, so to speak, but I want to use my rubber stamp here. Sorry, I draw a blank. Now this one is a little slightly bigger, but I can ink it up. Works well to ink it up inside this contraption here. Let's see how well this comes out. This is a new stamp that I haven't used before. And it really adheres to the surface very tightly of this. I had a hard time peeling it off the packaging that it came in. So say I want to, you know, make a mark here. And I use this to press down on it. Okay, so sometimes you have to go in again. But the point is that you can make marks with rubber stamps. If you have stamps that have different shapes and different things going on with it. I think the whole purpose of this thing is so that you can get it in the same spot again, but I think it won't exactly work that way for me this time. So I use, you know, all the possibilities of getting my marks down, whether I'm using paint, markers. I love Posca pens for that. This is really snug on here. The Posca pens are great for that. Markers, paint pens, and all of that. Now I started to use paint with this, but then I said no, because it'll build up on this if I don't sit it in water right away, and I didn't want to do that. So let's, and with this spiral thing, what I like about it is I don't have to come in the same place again with it. I just like that never-ending spiral effect. Okay, so that's another way of doing your mark making, using your rubber stamps. So now I'd like to use some paint, and I'd like to use this brush with some tissue paper. And let's see, I have some Payne's Gray here that I'll put inside here so I can dip it. And have a little bit here in my top. And so this is a nice soft brush, but yet it's firm enough to give me some marks. And I like the fact that it doesn't have to be very potent and strong. It can just give me some subtle marks, some strong in some places. And I like that. And the thing is to not necessarily saturate your brush. You don't have to saturate it. And say now if I wanted to come in with another color with that, let's try some iridescent bronze. Gives me that metallic look. I'm just going to put it right in here. I know my lid is big enough for the brush, but not for me to move it around as I would like, but be that as it may. And so if I want to do some other swirly marks with it, I can get a nice effect with that. And it holds a nice amount of paint. And so a brush like this works well for getting some mark making down. And I can use these pieces in collage work or art journal work, and they would come out pretty nicely. So I like the options because not everybody has a bunch of stencils to use, and it's simple if you can just use a brush of some sort, a wide brush, and even a regular size brush will give you some nice mark making. Okay, so I'm going to use a sponge here, and I'm going to put some paint in. I'm using golden fluid acrylics, quinacridone, nickel, and with a makeup sponge. Say you just have a makeup sponge, and you can make marks, excuse me, with the makeup sponge. Very easily, cooperates well. And say I want to come in with a little of the Payne's Gray on some of it, right? The thing I like about mark making is that it's, you know, there are no rules, and you can create as you see fit. Okay, and then you have this nice effect as well. Now if I go in for the sake of using up my paint, and I come by adding some of that down the center in between the ones we've made, and that makes for some papers, nice papers, especially when you cut them up. And even with that. And when it dries, I can come in with, let me get my water. I can come in with a marker or fine marker. and do some thin, fine lines. Just want to sit my brush in this water so paint doesn't dry. And I can do some fine lines as well in between. Here's a Posca pen. And if I wanted to come and do some fine marks like that, horizontally, vertically, just to add some interest. And it's that simple. And so you may not have stencils and all of that kind of thing. Or you may not have the Archival inks to use, but you just have paint, you have some markers, some pens, and a sponge or brush, regular brush. You could make some nice mark making with that. And the tissue paper, as I said, allows for transparency. With it. Now the other thing is, if you have a hole puncher, I use this on some scrapbook paper when I was making some paper buttons, large ones. And so I kept some of these to use. And so another way of using this paper is mark making. If you're using the makeup sponge, you can always cut off the tip and keep using the same sponge for a while. So okay, I have some Naples yellow. And I'm going to use some circles using this as a stencil. So you can cut out a stencil, make your own. You can measure a container cap top that's round and make your circular or square stencil using paper, or you can use cardstock. I was trying to think what it was. Cardstock. You could use a piece of cardboard from a box, and you can cut out, you know, your shapes and things like this. You can use as mark making as well. And so we can be creative. We don't have to buy a lot of supplies. I mean, over the years I've accumulated a lot of supplies because as an artist painter, there are different things I have to keep on hand. But as I got more into mixed media work, I started inventing and making my own stencils and coming up with different ways to create things without necessarily spending money. And stencils that I've had for a long time. Every now and again I might buy a new one, like that circular one I used earlier. Something that has an interesting shape. But I use the same ones I've been using for a long time. So okay, using the same stencil, I want to straddle it. And come in with some Payne's Gray. Actually, I should have done it like this. Just making marks. And sometimes your marks don't look like much of anything when you're doing them in the beginning. But when you cut them up and rip them in pieces, you begin to see how satisfying they are. So your mark making doesn't need to be complicated. These are just a bunch of circles. And when they dry, I can come on top of them and with a paint pen, a white paint pen, and do some other small circles on top, giving a different look. But because the paper will glue down very transparent, that's what I like. And I like organic things, which work well for me. And so you have this here of marks. And if I wanted to, I could come in with a Posca pen. Making other designs. It's sky's the limit. There is no rule. It's just your creative eye, how you see things, and what you want to do. And so it's worth a try. One of the things I always encourage is freedom to do what you would like to do. There's nobody to tell you, don't make that mark there, don't do this, don't do that. And you're free to make marks and do it the way you want to do it in the moment. It's not a case of anything being wrong to do. It's whatever you feel in the moment where your creativity takes you. And with me, I don't plan anything. I just do the first thing that comes to my head, to my mind, to my thoughts, and I go with it. And somehow, I always end up liking it in the end. And so, use whatever you have, whatever supplies that you have on hand. And as I said before, if I was to cut these up, I'm going to use these in my journal. You start to look at it a little differently. And by the time they're glued down, they give such a nice look. Right? And these will be some fun additions to my journals. And the same with these. So that was just a little quick bit of inspiration for you today. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for stopping by. Continue to create. continue to do art, be free, don't think too much about it. Till next time.